In the vast, ever-expanding realm of isekai anime, the daily life of a middle-aged online shopper in another world has quietly carved its own identity, not through grand battles or cataclysmic stakes, but by anchoring itself in the deeply human moments that often slip through the cracks in more action-heavy narratives. Episode 11, titled Shock, delivers not only its most emotionally complex and thematically resonant installment to date, but it also begins to peel back the layers of a world that, up until now, seemed comfortably lighthearted and straightforward. This episode is not merely a narrative pivot, it is a thematic revelation packed with subtle lore, poignant character growth, and a steadily rising tide of political undercurrents threatening to reshape everything our cast has known. It begins quietly enough in the royal palace of Astrantia, where Princess Lilith and Queen Mylen discuss recent developments, specifically the successful construction of a canal and the wave of transformation rippling through their kingdom. At the center of this change is Kenichi, our unassuming protagonist, whose introduction of modern technology into a medieval society has begun to catch the eye of those in power. The Queen's reflection on his influence isn't just gratitude, it's a calculated awareness that this outsider, with his ideas and tools, could alter the very structure of their world. The significance of this moment is subtle but seismic. For the first time, the viewer is asked to consider not just the personal journey of Kenichi, but the socio-political reverberations of his mere existence. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the city, the spotlight shifts to Anemone, whose development takes a profound and unexpected turn. She is revealed to be likely related to the legendary Silver Armeria, a mage of great renown who vanished a decade ago. Though Anemone herself brushes aside the implications of this potential lineage, this moment introduces a quiet mystery. Her magical prowess is not incidental, and her future may hold far more than she anticipates. Anemone experiences her first menstruation, a biological milestone depicted with refreshing sincerity and cultural authenticity. In this world, menstruation is seen not as something to hide or brush off, but as a rite of passage celebrated with a feast and support from one's companions. The conversation that follows between Anemone and Kenichi is a delicate one. In her youthful innocence, Anemone asks to bear his child, an act that in her eyes would solidify love and connection. But Kenichi, ever the responsible and empathetic adult, gently declines. He doesn't humiliate her or react with shock, but treats her feelings with the respect they deserve. His response walks a tightrope, affirming her worth and emotional courage without taking advantage of the power imbalance between them. Kanan, a friend and ally of Kenichi, finds her business under siege by Thogalum, a merchant representing the old guard of commerce. Thogalum's tactics, economic sabotage, coercion, and the exploitation of demi-human labor reveal a deeper theme that has simmered beneath the surface of the show: the battle between the past and the future. Kenichi's innovations, both technological and ethical, have begun to displace the established order, and Thogalum represents the pushback. He is the living embodiment of institutional greed, unwilling to evolve and desperately clinging to power. But this isn't a mere economic squabble. When Kenichi is called in to mediate, it becomes a confrontation about principles, loyalty, and justice. With the help of allies like Bell, North Pole, and Croton, Kenichi manages to turn the tide. The catfolk mercenaries initially loyal to Thogalum are persuaded to abandon him through honest conversation and appeals to fairness, testament to how trust and empathy can unravel even the most hardened greed. The scene of betrayal is intense and cathartic. North Pole's sudden act of justice against the catfolk who remain loyal to Thogalum jolts the viewer, reminding us that while Kenichi represents progress, this world still plays by its own harsh rules. Then, with dramatic flair, Kenichi unveils the excavator, a modern machine that startles onlookers with its power and complexity. Thogalum is defeated not just by muscle, but by the moral and intellectual evolution he refused to acknowledge. Yet, even in defeat, he leaves behind a chilling warning. His parting words hint at continued threats to Primura and to the balance Kenichi has so carefully constructed. As if to confirm the gravity of what's to come, a royal summons arrives for Kenichi. Delivered by a messenger from the capital, it signals a transition into a new phase of his journey. And this time, the stakes may be less about shops and villages and more about thrones, power, and revolution. The episode ends on a note of quiet unease. The group celebrates Anemone's coming of age with laughter and warmth, but the underlying tension of Thogalum's words and the royal summons hangs heavy in the air. Episode 11 is, without a doubt, the emotional and thematic centerpiece of the series thus far. Its ability to balance humor, tenderness, tension, and suspense is nothing short of masterful. It plants seeds for future arcs while paying off character relationships in deeply satisfying ways. And most importantly, it challenges the viewer to ask, what does progress truly cost? What happens when tradition and innovation collide? And in a world so unlike our own, what values still remain universal? With Shock, the daily life of a middle-aged online shopper in another world proves it's not just another ice guy, it's a deeply human story wearing the robes of fantasy, quietly delivering some of the most heartfelt and thought-provoking content of the season.